It's an honor to have the opportunity of speaking at this very important event on an issue of great significance to us as a society, the issue of abuse of women and girls. It's especially gratifying that Her Excellency, the wife of the President, and her organization, the Future Assured Organization, have chosen to shine the light on this issue and use her office to mobilize support against the scourge. Women and girls are advised and counseled on how to prevent or avoid rape, what to wear, what not to wear, where to go and where not to go, with little or no emphasis placed on engaging and counseling boys and men about how to treat women and girls. There is a need for the judiciary also to be trained in gender-based violence concerns. Sometimes there isn't enough understanding of the sorts of harrowing conditions that people go through, especially young girls and young women who have been raped. And it's important for our law enforcement and especially our administration of justice system to be specially trained and to be sensitized to the various difficulties in ascertaining whether crime has been committed against vulnerable women or girls. The need for alliances, collaborations, strengthened institutions, and for additional research that will provide strong evidence base for more informed decisions on sexual and gender-based violence at all levels.
Violence against women and children is a violation of human rights, the very nature of which deprives victims of their ability to enjoy fundamental freedom of existence. As a government, under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, we responded to these needs by way of effective legislation and advocacy to check the rising cases of violence against women and children. It is in response to all these violations and these shameful practices that led the federal government of Nigeria to enact Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Enforcement and Administration Act 2005 that was indeed repealed and reenacted in 2015. We need communities, families, and society at large to come together to deal with this problem. It is a crime that is driven by monetary benefit, greed, and an attempt to acquire wealth illegally. We need to approach those who allow their children to become victims of modern slavery, sexual exploitation, to desist from doing so.
Violence against children is a global epidemic and not only constrains the development of the affected children, but also affects the economic and social development of a country. It affects the economic development of Nigeria. This has been recognized by the Sustainable Development Goals, which for the first time acknowledge this critical linkage between ending violence against boys, girls, women, and economic development, and called on every country in the world to take decisive action to end violence against children by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, I stand humbly before you and renew UNICEF's commitment to support Nigeria to implement the End to Violence Against Children by 2030 campaign.
First of all, I would like to appreciate the Office of the Wife of the President and the Future Assured for inviting UNFPA to be part of this event. The vision of UNFPA is that we must end gender-based violence, including harmful practices such as female genital mutilation, early marriage. Young girls and young women are subjected to female genital mutilation, to child marriage, sexual abuse, and this leads to a lot of problems too. They drop out of school, they develop fistula, I stand here humbly to reiterate UNFPA's support to the Nigerian government to end violence, end gender-based violence, and harmful practices such as early marriage, female genital mutilations, fistula, as well as sexual violence. I'd like to congratulate you all for being here. Your presence here is a demonstration of your commitment to ensure that by 2030 there is no violence in Nigeria.
It is heartwarming to know that this workshop is also organized primarily to sensitize the general public on more effective protection in the rights of women and children, and to provide actionable solutions to violence against women and children. The goals of this program are no doubt germane to the good aspiration of this administration. I therefore seize this opportunity to assure our dear mother that this government is ready and willing to offer this program all the needed support to enable it to achieve its laudable goals. I wish to call on other non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, and well-meaning Nigerians to emulate the good work of Future Assured program to make our society healthier and safer for the vulnerable and for everybody in our society.
I gently honored that you accepted the invitation to be part of this very important national workshop organized under my Future Assured program in collaboration with the United Nations Population Fund to deliberate on the diverse adverse effect of series of abuse on women and children in our society. This workshop is therefore intended to raise awareness and to sensitize the general public on abuse-related issues. Also, it aims to provide workable solutions to addressing this social problem. I have reflected over these matters and have come to the conclusion that we need to bring discourse on these issues to public domain, listen to professionals to tease out the issues and prefer solutions. I want to use this opportunity to call on victims of abuse to speak out and let the law take its course. We believe by so doing this will help protect another victim somewhere. There should be no excuse for any form of abuse in Nigeria.
Women are subjected to sexual abuse in public working places. We must mention this. And then, in the educational institutions where I'm coming from, a lot of abuse is also happening. It happens against female students. It also happens against male students. What commonly comes to mind is that male lecturers do sexually harass female students. And that is true. And that is the commonest thing that happens. Your Excellency, but female lecturers also do harass male students and abuse them. Other areas in which abuses happen are public places, like motor parks and marketplaces, abuses in the cyberspace, in the social media, abuses in the internet. Many unsuspecting young girls and unsuspecting young boys have been cajoled, lured, and deceived in many ways in the social media. And we need to take note of this when we come to discuss issues of abuse. The most important preventive measure is education. We need to institute robust, broad-based, comprehensive and effective societal orientation program so that we would regenerate our societal values through a lot of sensitization, enlightenment campaigns, engaging the religious organizations, religious groups
is very necessary, where all stakeholders, let everybody feel concerned about this problem. These abuses or those abuses, it is about celebrating the honor and dignity of the human person. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
25% of women in Nigeria are victims of violence generally. 25% out of 100 is so huge. 1/4 of all girls in Nigeria are potential victims of one form of violence or the other. Third, 2/3 of all women in Nigeria have experienced one form of bias, marginalization, compromise, or betrayal in job placement or career progression. Abuse of children in Nigeria, the trends. About 3 million children suffer from child abuse, violence, and abandonment. UNICEF, 2016. Over 10 million children do not have access to educational facilities in Nigeria. World Bank report, midterm review of World Bank, 2015. 1/3 of all Nigerian children are potential victims of violence, either directly or consequentially. UNICEF, 2007. Consequences or implications of these abuses. It leads to low self-esteem. Once you are abused, that's the end of your self-esteem. You are done. It can create conflicts, crisis, and confusion. And finally, it can destroy the moral values of a society. And we are tired of conferences and workshops and seminars. We want to see it practically. How? Save the Child Summit. 1. March or work for them. Finally, awards for state assemblies with the highest bills on child rights and protection bills.
Abandonment, an age-long predominant form of domestic violence in Nigeria, which involves the abandonment of wife, children, and dependents with no means of sustenance. It happens every day. The man wakes up, he wants another wife, he pushes the woman out on the streets. Due to poor handling of reported cases, oftentimes it leaves victims with more traumatic experiences. At local government levels, there is an urgent need to have trauma management facility centers that are easily accessible to victims of domestic and sexual violence. The problem of underreporting complicates data collection.
81% of all forms of abuses are by parents, and 65% of these 81 are women. So it goes to show that it is we women that are actually abusing our children more than any other person. 10% are people that are relatives. And of course, 8.5% are strangers. So it means it is a food for thought of we women, when we are now saying, oh, our children are being abused every time. Let's look inwards. Who are the real abusers? Who are the perpetrators? The highest perpetrators are women. Every child must have its own legal representation when necessary. Provisions for schools within a close range. Not that children will be going 10 miles away from school and then they are exposed to dangers. Recreational areas, because why the Child Rights Act says that children should have that they have rights to recreation as well.
I want to recommend that our chief judges and attorney generals, some of whom are here, should begin to consider coming up with some kind of mechanisms or practice directions, as they will say, that will accelerate prosecution of alleged abusers. For now, it takes tens of years, a very long time, to prosecute a single suspect. There are frequent adjournments. The legal system is so cumbersome, and so on and so forth. And therefore, if we have to free ourselves from abuse, we have to improve the criminal justice system to facilitate the process of ensuring that all those who abuse our children, abuse our women, do not get away with it.